So we'll see how this works out. All right. Let me just put a chaser on you because sometimes you rock a little bit, and that's okay because this is going to follow you. Nothing wrong with that.
As long as you rock steady.
That's fine. Okay.
I think that's what Aretha said.
Mm-hmm.
And Aretha knew what she was talking about.
Yeah, that is true. All right. And I'm shooting. Oh, okay. All right, we're rolling.
Okay.
All right, good to see you again, Colonel.
Good to see you.
Well, that was a while ago. Doesn't seem like that long ago. It was. So, what have you been up to since I saw you? Was that 4 years ago now?
Yes, well, I have served as the chairman of the board of the U.S. Space and Rocket Center, commonly known around the world as Space Camp. We also have a branded robotics program and a branded aviation challenge program. I'm quite involved with the Aviation Council of Alabama. 14 years ago, I was one of the 6 co-founders, and we speak for aviation in the state of Alabama now. We have worked very hard to upgrade our airports in terms of safety. We have done a lot of things involving getting young people involved in aviation. Also, we have worked diligently with our elected officials, especially Senator Shelby and Senator Sessions, to get our airport funding upgrades and work with the FAA quite a bit. And we go to Washington every year. We provide white papers concerning the aviation interests of the day. We recommend their votes and the reasons why. And also I'm quite involved in the American Village. It's a campus, very much like a college campus in Montebello, Alabama. I'm on that board also, and it's quite involved in teaching our young people the values and the history of this nation. For example, we have exact replicas of Independence Hall, a number of the other buildings, the chapel where Patrick Henry made his famous speech. We even have a copy of the Oval Office in actual size with all of the furnishings.
Wow, I got to see that. I could have used that. I did a music video and I used the Oval Office to shoot in. I had to settle for a White House replica in over by Knott's Berry Farm. So the woman had built this house to look like the White House. And it worked, but I would have liked to have an Oval Office.
Well, to keep in mind, you need to get to Montebello to take a look at the Oval Office there and the other historic buildings. Our young people in Alabama and some from Mississippi and Florida drive in by bus, they do day trips, and they learn the history of this nation. They learn why we are who we are. And that's awfully important because you definitely need a great foundation for patriotism in the country and service. Our young people need to learn that we should have service to others before self.
Mm-hmm. So as far as young people and technology, I know you're very big on that. How is the legacy of the Tuskegee Airmen important to teaching the youth or trying to get them involved in science and technology?
Well, I am very pleased that we have an initiative involving our Tuskegee Airmen to keep our young people learning, motivating them to get involved in the sciences, into technology, engineering, of course, math. It's so important that they have a great foundation in these subjects because that is what makes our nation great. It also means that we can compete in an effective way with the rest of the world. Right now, we rank number 18th, and that is not where we want to be in an educational environment. We are the country that put man on the moon and brought him back safely. We need to really have our young people step up to the plate and study hard, prepare themselves well, and do the things that they need to do to be successful.
Okay, great. Now you took some notes Did you get everything you wanted in your notes?
Well, I don't need notes right now.
Okay. All right. Well, good. So, after the movie Red Tails, people are still having a problem connecting the Tuskegee Airmen with the movie. I have to say, you ever seen the movie Red Tails? I heard, oh yeah, I heard about that. But they didn't register Tuskegee Airmen. How do we fix that?
Well, I think anytime you have a great movie, you have to market the movie, and obviously the producers did that quite well. But there obviously was not the kind of tie-in with the Tuskegee Airmen that was the reason for the movie. And perhaps some of that is our fault as an organization. Perhaps some of it was the fault of the folks who put the movie together. But 11 of our Tuskegee Airmen spent 10 days at one time out at the producer's ranch and sat around and discussed the things that they did as Tuskegee Airmen, as young 18 to 26-year-olds, and how the Tuskegee Airmen came about and what their core values were and the key things that made them who they were. These were some of the most remarkable young men this nation has ever produced. And the things that were important, I think, are indeed in the movie, but perhaps we need to make a greater effort in marketing the Tuskegee Airmen. And one of the things that I do as I speak to young people around the country and frankly around the world, I do a few international speeches too, I talk about the things that I learned from the Tuskegee Airmen. As a 16-year-old kid, I left Mobile, Alabama on a United Negro College Fund scholarship in chemistry, and I went to Tuskegee. And I thought I was going to be the next Dr. George Washington Carver research scientist. So when I talk about STEM, I'm a person who actually has gone through the training as a scientist. I have a degree in chemistry, and my favorite course in all the world was organic chemistry. It's something I lived during the time that I took it, and today I still love to think in terms of organic chemistry, but also I love physics. And I suppose some folks would say, oh my goodness, what a nerd. Well, I think it's important to be well-rounded. I also was a team captain and conference tennis champion in the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. I also managed to go through ROTC, and I also learned to fly. C. Alfred Anderson, the chief flight instructor of the Tuskegee Airmen, taught me to fly there. And if you want to be an aviator, it's smart to be conversant with the subjects that are involved in STEM. Not that you have to be a brilliant scientist to be an aviator. It's part art, it's part science. And I can sit here as an individual with over 6,600 hours. I've owned multiple airplanes over the years, and I ran the Tuskegee Army airfield, the Tuskegee Airmen field at Moton Field in recent years, and helped get the museum there. But I've taken over 3,000 youngsters for their first flights. 357 received FAA certificates. 56 I helped put in military seats. But it's important to note that the young people who wanted to learn how to fly, most of them did learn. It's about motivating young people and helping make their dreams come true. It's about not worrying about, oh my goodness, I'm afraid of heights. That has nothing to do with flying an airplane. It's hard to convince some young people, but once again, we have to give them that orientation. We have to introduce them to subjects. For example, they say, oh my goodness, I'm not good in science, or I'm not good in math. How do they know if they have not had someone really introduce them to it and go through and help them with homework and suggest things and take them to various events where math is important? And as an aviator, math is important because you got to read maps, you got to know what your airspeeds are, time and distance equations. It's not complicated because you learn by doing. And the military is a perfect example of that. You learn by doing. We can take, and I can speak as a commander multiple times in the military, you can take an individual who has absolutely zero experience in something, give them the proper training, and let them learn with someone else with hands-on training. And not only will they meet the bar, but they will soar over the bar if you motivate them to do that. Our young people in America can do amazing things. I've seen it many times in the military, and I have absolutely no doubt that our young people can meet any challenge that they'd like to meet.
Perfect. Easy.
We're not finished yet.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Yes. I want to talk about the things that I learned in terms of what the Tuskegee Airmen taught me.
Okay.
Are we out of
No, we got
memory?
I'm just going to adjust the camera just a little bit. Yeah, okay. All right. We're good. Okay, go ahead.
Before we leave, I'd like to pass on the things that I learned from the Tuskegee Airmen. I think they are extremely important, and I try and pass these, I call them my P's of success that I learned from being around the Tuskegee Airmen and from them being my mentors over the years. It's extremely important, for example, the first P, that a young person early on get a sense of who he or she is. Their perception of self is important. And I suppose that Shakespeare said it best. To thine own self be true, know thyself. So that's important. You need to get in touch with what your skills are, what your interests are, what are the things that you get excited about, what are the things you have a passion for. Because if you learn that early, you can start to work on that and you're on the way to success. The next thing that's very important and is the foundation of success is that you truly have to have an education. You have to learn. You have to hit the books. When other kids are going out and they have other things to do and they're playing games and what have you, that's fine, but you have to devote serious time in learning the subjects that interest you and making sure that you also put some time in the subjects that you may not be that interested in, but still are required for a solid foundation. You should become well-rounded. That is so important in life. But a solid educational foundation is critical. The next thing that's needed is you need to develop a great passion, a passion for what it is you want to do. And I can tell you that two of my great passions is, number one is to fly. I love to fly. Chief Anderson taught me to fly. The chief flight instructor of the Tuskegee Airmen, he taught me touch. He's taught me stick and rudder. And he said, every flight you make should be better than the one before. Every landing that you make should be better than the one before. And remember, I have over 6,600 hours, and I like to think that I can grease them on pretty nicely. But it's so important that you have a passion for that kind of thing. Another passion is I truly like to pass things on that I've learned to the next generation. So I spend a lot of time with youth. That's one reason I'm on the board and chair of Space Camp. We have from 24 to 27,000 young people every year come through. And it is a life-changing experience. They learn that nerds can do things too. They learn that people who are not nerds, who think of themselves as not wanting to be involved in STEM-related things at all, they learn so much, and they learn from each other. They learn interpersonal relationships. They learn how to deal with other things. They learn how to learn. And many who go through Space Camp, we get letters that say, Johnny or Susie came home and the grades went vertical and we get the letters saying my son or my daughter got a scholarship to college, and they would never have been able to do that, but they got very serious with their studies after they went to space camp. They learned that the brain is a very special thing, and at space camp we truly like to let them explore what their capabilities are. But a passion, a great passion for what it is that you want to do. The next P is, it's so important that you persevere. Sometimes you're not going to be the first person picked for the team. I grew up across the street from the park in Mobile, Alabama, and the tennis court was there and the basketball court was there. But if you were 5'2" and you didn't have a killer outside three-pointer, you were not going to be the first person picked for the team. So you have to develop the skills necessary so that you can be on the team that you want to be on. But you have to persevere. You make sure that you are not the person who gives up. Let the other guy give up. Don't you ever give up on your goals, your ideas. Don't ever let anyone tell you what you can't do. Can't is a word I heard that is not in your vocabulary. Don't let yourself be the one that wants to sneak out when times start getting hard. Work on the things that need to be done and see it through. So really, you have to persevere. And when you are the last person standing, if necessary, you'll find that that boss of yours that's so hard, who has asked that a team do something, you'll find that that person, even though they didn't have a clue initially that you had the skills or they wanted you to be in the limelight, you'll find that that boss will end up asking you to lead the team, or that promotion belongs to you at that point. It's extremely important that you persevere. Do not give up. Do not give up. The next thing is, and it's so important, perhaps the most important in terms of normal things, and that is your performance. Your performance is your measure of merit. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr., General Officer, leader of the Tuskegee Airmen, he did not mince words. He told me that as a young 16-year-old freshman in ROTC at Tuskegee. It has always remained with me. Your performance is your reputation. Your performance is what other people will judge you by. If people in the military, for example, on the other side of the world will know about you if you're very good at something. They'll also know about you if you're not. But your performance is your measure of merit. That is the extremely important thing that one should remember. And finally, the final P, for those of faith, one should pray. Early on in determining who you are and what you're going to do, and finally be thankful when things work out. Those are the P's of success that I personally learned from the Tuskegee Airmen.
Okay. And how young are you, Colonel?
I'll be 72 August 25th in a few days.
You got a lot of energy and vitality. So something just hit me. Oh, what's your thoughts on this trophy thing that everybody's talking about? You're getting a trophy for participating. Well, do you think that that's harmful or helpful? Do you have an opinion on it?
I do. I think one should earn what one gets. If you are going to give someone everything, they want more, and they are not willing to put out energy at all. One of the most disappointing experiences I had as a fixed base operator when I ran the Tuskegee Airmen Airport was during the annual fly-in that I held every Memorial Day weekend. And we brought kids in and offered, every year we offered rides for all the kids. And in fact, one year we set an FAA record for a fly-in. We flew 384 kids in one weekend at Moton Field at Tuskegee. Now, I met this one kid who was kind of standing back. He was obviously one of the leaders of the group, and other kids watched him and didn't necessarily want to go flying. So I perceived that. I went over, introduced myself, and I took him in my office and started talking about what his interests were and if he'd like to go flying. And this young man looked me in the eye and said, "What are you going to give me if I go flying with you?" That was the wrong approach. He was getting everything free. He got a free visit to one of the most historic places in the country. He had folks who gave him free food for the day, and folks who looked out for his welfare and taught him a number of things. But his approach was, "What are you going to give me if I go flying with you?" And I took a deep breath and I studied that young man and I said, "Nothing. You have been given a lot already because you've been given your health. You've been given the opportunity to come here to learn some things today. You've been given an opportunity to do an awful lot of things in the greatest nation on earth. And I want you to think about that." And he was quite surprised. And we stayed there and chatted for about 30 minutes. I then took him out and I took him up in my 836 Bonanza. And after we got to altitude, I pulled the pin, kicked the wheel over, I folded my arms and put my feet on the floor, and I talked him through flying maneuvers. That young man has indeed moved on and gotten his pilot's license. He's graduated from college and he wants to go in the military. I'll let him go from this point.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
No, I'm thankful for your taping this, and I truly hope that at some point it will help some young people make some decisions in their lives to do some good things and contribute to the country. It's important to contribute to this great nation and to your families and to those you love.
Excellent. Okay. See, you're a professional, man. You're born for this. Yeah, you're born.